So this is new. I got sent my very first review copy for a game. How exciting. I should point out this isn't a sponsored video. I'm not being paid by the developer or anything. I got sent a free code for it is all. It's being a game called Tormentum Dark Sorrow, funded on Indiegogo, greenlit on Steam, and comes to us courtesy of ONU Studio, a company whose name I will never tire of saying even though I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Not only did I get this for free, but the development team is a mere 3 people, and I've got this weird soft spot for tiny dev teams. I'll try and stay objective as best I can, just wanted to let you know what my inherent biases are before we get fired into this. Story first then. You wake up in a cage attached to an airship while the sky rains fireballs down behind you. Average Monday, I suppose. You're not the only poor bugger to suffer this fate. There's a rat in the cage next to you. He tells you that the horned knights and their airships only come when the sky rains fire, like right the hell now, and only come for those marked by evil. Ooh, this cutie? You're also told that you're being taken to a castle immediately before arriving at a castle. A wall of text takes you to a cage where one of the horned knights announces that my bowels are evil or something, and he heavily hints that although you're marked for evil, you're not beyond redemption. Then he buggers off and, of course, you start escaping from your cell. So this is a point-and-click adventure game, so say the devs. On a very basic level, it achieves that. You point at the things and you click on them for stuff to happen, you collect objects and use them on the other objects for great justice, you talk to various characters with your mouth face. But why am I making a big deal out of established genre tropes? It's because Tormentum does some of these features differently and some of them it doesn't do at all. You don't actually have control of the main character, for example. He just stands there while you make with the clicking. None of the conversations feature a dialogue tree. You can't examine any inventory items after you've nabbed them. Put all this together and we're veering dangerously close to hidden object adventure territory. Especially not helped when your first task is escaping from something. Don't panic yet though, because this game one-ups that genre very quickly. Behold, an actual puzzle! Hell, that one-ups a lot of traditional point-and-click adventures. No word cipher though. Disappointed. The game's progression essentially takes you through a number of hubs with multiple locations within them, but it doesn't actually feel as restrictive as that sounds. It flows very naturally, and that's to the development team's credit. Although blocking some areas with convenient cave-ins does undo that a little bit. Whilst I will praise the presence of puzzles, I have to note that I managed to complete this in a few hours without any major problems. Except for this one, I more or less solved it by sheer luck. Twice. Now, don't let my focus on pointy clicks fool you. I'm not an expert puzzle solver by any means. And the fact that I got through this without looking up a walkthrough indicates to me that the puzzles aren't incredibly difficult. Granted, if I'd caved in and actually looked for a walkthrough I wouldn't have found any because the game isn't out yet. I'm new at this whole review code malarkey, remember? Thing is, I don't see anything inherently wrong with the puzzles. There's a good variety here, maybe one too many based on sliding tiles, but none of them are bad or stupid or time-wasting. They're just not that hard. My favourite example is a point later on. An old blind man wants you to restore some paintings for him. The man's talking pet, just go with it, offers a different solution, which reaps the same reward but involves destroying 3 of the paintings instead. It's an obvious good choice, bad choice, but it's not a dumb one. It makes sense. You could exert less effort for the same reward with no repercussions, or you can do something that makes an old man happy. Perhaps it's because most point-and-click adventures don't signpost your next objective quite as much as Tormentum does. It's difficult to lose your place, and you won't have to go too far to find any clues you might need, assuming that it wasn't copied into your notebook. This would be more of an issue if the entire point was to solve puzzles, and the fact that they've included a story indicates otherwise. Granted, there's not a lot to it. The lore isn't really expanded on more than it needs to be. Perhaps it was intentionally vague, but I don't foresee a lot of debates around this one. It's quite straightforward. Enough to keep me playing, not enough to make me pant-wettingly desperate for a sequel. Certainly it's an interesting game to look at. The devs mentioned the late H.R. Giger as an inspiration, and the phrase, "if you've ever wondered what Darkseid 3 might look like," has been used in their press announcements. You'll have to ask someone else how accurate that statement is, though I haven't played Darkseid 1 or 2. The castle at the start has the most Giger in it, with that blend of mechanical and organic with a dainty medieval wrapper. The level of detail is quite nice too, and the animation, while less than perfect, at least looks more natural than merely rotating the limbs a bit. There's no one style you can attribute to it either. There's airships, castles, elevators, magic crystals, flying demons, trains, massive tombs, Atlas is in there for some reason, and yet I didn't really question it. Even when I noticed that none of the characters seem to actually have names. It's a bit like when D&D players refer to each other by class because they haven't learned what anybody else called themselves. You'll have to judge for yourself whether the game is scary or disturbing, though I'm notoriously hard to creep out when it comes to horror games. What I will say is that everything is a little bit off in this world, and to a certain extent, you just have to go with it. It helps that the translation from Polish seems to have gone pretty well. The characters may sound off kilter, but in a clearly deliberate way. Ain't nobody being made by the Presbyterian Church here. There's one more thing that separates this from your average point-and-click. You get to choose how you want to proceed at certain points. For example, picking which character to give an item to. They don't exactly branch the story in different directions, but you'll be able to see the consequences of some of them later in the story. A character might act differently, a situation might not turn out the same, and so on. It's enough that I was tempted to play again to see a different outcome. Right, that's about everything I can think of to say apart from, is this worth buying? Well, let's look at it this way. It was a solid 3 hours or so of entertainment. I enjoyed the puzzles despite thinking they were too easy. The world was kind of interesting, pretty fun to look at, and it's not a goddamn hidden object adventure. But then again, many games aren't, despite Big Fish Games' sincerest efforts. And frankly, Tormentum veers dangerously close to being a hidden object adventure at times. The graphical detail and the not relying heavily on puzzle reuse or finding objects are mostly what saves it from that label. That might well be worth $11.99 or whatever your country makes you pay on Steam, and it's worth noting that there's a 20% discount at launch. No word on how long that'll last though. Or instead of ponying up cash for something you might potentially hate just because it costs a little less at this point in time, there's a free demo for you to try. This is the point where I had to stop myself writing a rousing speech about honest indie developers trying to make their way in the world, making something they care about rather than trying to sap your wallets, and remind myself to focus on the game instead. I'm of the opinion that $12 for a couple of hours entertainment is reasonable, but I don't presume that anybody else does. If that's all you're expecting, I think you'll be happy.